Go for it. So Tom, do you want to do your presentation tonight or do you want to do it at the next?
Should we just do it all at once? It makes more sense.
Yeah, we'll push it.
Does
They're
it make
saying push
more sense to do it all at once, probably?
Yeah, I think they're talking about maintenance
Do you
budget.
have a question?
Right.
27.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But won't hear.
Be the easiest. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, I officially call to order the special rescheduled regular council meeting for the city of Nisswa for Wednesday, April 16th, 2025 at 7:05 PM. If we can start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, our first order of business is to approve the agenda for this evening.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we have- All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Next up is the consent calendar. All matters listed are considered routine by the council and will all be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time of our votes. Do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
I did have one question on
Oh, yeah.
item number 19 on the personnel policy and personnel leave policy updates for the 2024 changes. I saw a severance increase from 50 to 75%.
Yes, that was approved by the council last summer.
I just wanted to
timeframe.
double check that because it popped out again. So, okay. Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? All those,
We're-
oh, go ahead, Joe.
Along those lines on the personnel, were there any other changes or updates to that that have been adjusted since that meeting?
No,
I went through it.
Okay, yeah. I was just making sure.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the consent calendar is approved. I'd like to take a moment to pause here and acknowledge and recognize our city administrator, Jenny Max. She's given many years of great service to Nisswa and has received an incredible opportunity in Champlin. And Jesse, I wanted to turn it to you.
Yeah, Jenny, first met you a few years back when I sent an email out asking what it would take for a young man to be considered for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And you've always been warm, you've been welcoming, you've been supportive. I think I've learned a lot from you and your time here and the previous councils that I've been a part of up to this one. You've done a lot to be able to get us educated, to get us corralled, to keep us on track. To keep us in the best, put us in the best position possible, the staff in the best position possible to be able to provide the best service to the citizens in Nisswa. And for the 7 years that you've been here, I can completely understand that a piece of wood with some metal on it doesn't exactly do justice, but Jenny, on behalf of the Nisswa City Council, we'd like to present you this plaque recognizing your 7 years of service with appreciation for your dedicated service and commitment to the city of Nisswa as city administrator. And I will add our first city administrator. So, Jenny.
Thank you. Next, we will move to open forum. And first up is public comment. Is there any public comment? Going once? Going twice. Okay. And then we did decide that the Public Works Wastewater Department annual presentation will actually be moved. We didn't get through all of Public Works for the budget, so we'll just do those all together. So next up, under reports, we have Jenny, the city administrator, monthly report for April.
Thank you, Mayor Carnahan. Good evening, City Council. My report is in your packet. Again, this month highlighting a handful of legislative updates that is happening down in St. Paul to the best that we can keep up with all of the activity that is going on. A couple of items I would like to highlight as part of the report, and also just information that I brought back from the last league board meeting from last week. So cannabis licensing, the state rulemaking is complete, and the city should work to have our application materials ready for those non-capped cannabis licenses. You think of those micro businesses, some of the meso businesses that there's about a dozen different types of licenses. So that is something that staff can start working on to have those application materials ready if businesses would choose to come for those licenses. The second item is housing. The three sets of bills that I had highlighted in my report last month, they're essentially stalled in both chambers. In their current form, they did not meet the first or second deadlines. However, there's always something else could happen before the end of session. So these bills could resurface through a rules committee process before the end of session. There would be a lot of hurdles, I think, to get them into an agreement to move forward. But so we're in a good position right now with housing, but still something could come up. So we'll keep an eye on that. With regarding the paid family medical leave and earned sick and safe time, there is some movement that has occurred with the new legislation being proposed, or new language being proposed to modify the legislation. The Republicans have indicated that they are interested in tying this topic to budget negotiations. So there could be more adjustments or modifications to expectations for employers and employees on some of that paid family medical leave to keep an eye on. And then lastly, I have an update on sales tax. So bills have been heard in both chambers with possible inclusion of language in the omnibus tax bill. The language is different between the House and the Senate, so there would need to be some reconciliation that would occur. Not quite sure the likelihood of that. And so if nothing is passed from the legislative perspective, then as of the end of May, the moratorium will lift. And then the process that was in place 2 years ago would just start back up again, where cities could propose a sales tax request to the legislature for starters before bringing it to the local voter. I know that this has been a topic of conversation the last few months, and that's more to come with parks funding opportunities going forward. I would encourage the council to give this consideration for this option and give the local residents the chance to speak on whether or not they would like this revenue stream to be used for funding our park system. So that's just my plug on that. There's a lot of hurdles and processes to get through before that vote would happen, but that certainly would be a way to achieve those goals. And with that, I would stand for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for Jenny? No, thank you. Next report, city attorney.
Good evening, everybody. I don't have anything to report here tonight.
Thank you. City engineer.
Good evening, everybody. Some of the things I've been working on is 2025 or 2026 streets, trying to get the right-of-way information that Tom needs to start acquisition of permanent and temporary easements that he needs. Also working on that Roy's Landing topographic divide. The survey has been complete. We're working on preparing that line. The other thing is Gull Lake Trail Phase 4B, contractor, Landwehr, submitted all the contract documents. They're here for signature. And we set up a pre-con for, I think, hopefully April 29th for them to get started. And also been working on like stuff about Pocket Park to come up with some concepts or ideas for that, to get that, some of those problems resolved. Same with the Nisswa Lake Park, trying to use up some of the extra money from the Gull Lake Trail Phase 4B for some improvements in the park area, like a bathroom area or something like that. Also, our GIS people are continuing to work and improve and add information to the GIS system based on comments and questions from Tom and people at staff here. That's it.
Do we have any questions? Anyone? No? Okay, thank you. Next up is new business. The first item is to approve the City of Nisswa audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2024. Jenny.
The city council, thank you. The city council heard a presentation from our auditor earlier this evening, and at this time would just request approval of the audited financial statements and the report to the members of governance.
Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the City of Nisswa 2024 audited financial statements as presented for year ending
Second.
December 31st, 2024.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Also, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve the 2024 report to members of governance on behalf of the financial statements.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next up under new business is a request for council action sewer pump replacements. Tom.
Good evening, everybody. You should find in your packet, a couple of quotes that we had for some sewer pump replacements. As I alluded to in my memo, we do an annual service check with Electric Pump as our service provider at this time. And they go through the lift stations and they do, an analysis of the components of those lift stations to see the condition of them and what needs to be done. Mike Deck, our new sewer operator, has gone through this list and he's made a recommendation to me of what he feels needs to be done. And I've provided that to you. So with that, we're looking at lift station number 2 needs 2 new pumps. And those are 25,640 for that one. Lift station number 9 needs 1. That would be 12,824. Lift station 10 needs a new impeller on one of the pumps. That would be 3,083. Lift station 3, this one is kind of bothersome to us. So this is one pump station where we went away from our typical brand of pumps that we've been using, and we've only gotten just a few years of use out of it. That's our newest lift station and our biggest one, most important. And so we're already replacing a pump in there, and the cost on that is 33,231. Electric pump would need 74,786 to do all that work. This is normally budgeted. We do have a list like this most years. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 less, sometimes it's 1 or 2 more, but this is where we're at. Guess with that, I'd be looking for approval to do that work or questions or comments.
Are you going back to your old brand on the pump?
Yes, we are.
I'll make a motion to move ahead as Tom has presented for the lift station pumps. I'll second it.
Any additional discussion or questions for Tom? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have a recommendation to promote Scott Williams to police sergeant. So Todd, if you want to come up.
Good evening again. I think you said it best right there. Looking to get Scott promoted to the sergeant's position. Your approval would be effective in June, along with the other promotions. I think just once everything's approved to get wages and whatnot hammered out, so.
Very good.
Any-
I'd like to make a motion here and recommend to promote Officer Scott Williams to police sergeant.
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions for Todd? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Congratulations.
Congrats, sergeants.
And also, a memo from Sergeant Szymanski regarding the patrol officer vacancy.
Yes, with Chief Taylor retiring in June, it's gonna leave a vacancy. that we would like to fill to keep the department fully staffed at 6 members. Like to get approval to advertise for that and get the process started as soon as possible here so we can get that filled.
I'd like to make a motion to, have an opening for a new police officer, additional officer for the city of Nisswa.
Second?
Do we have any additional discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Public Works, approve the road repair quote. Tom again.
All right, so at this particular item, I was hoping, this is the one fly in the ointment from putting my presentation to the back page. One of the things we were gonna talk about was drainage on the 27 roads. Some of those are the ones in Grandview, and that's what this quote is for. To do an 1.5 mill and overlay through that area. What this would be is a stopgap project to allow the roads through there to withstand traffic for the next few years while we work through some of the details of a larger project, such as whether or not we need to upgrade the sewer force main, or if we're going to be adding water lines through here, curb and gutter with the drainage, where we would put the water. I see Lonnie's here tonight. I don't know if he wants to speak for Grandview in any way on this item, or if he has any thoughts. Right now, the larger project would be looking to go ahead in 27. With the rest of that road bond, this would probably push that back a few years. Would give us more time to think of what we want to do with that. And so I think, with that, you'll see that I got 2 quotes for paving, both with Anderson Brothers and with Knife River. Anderson Brothers overall is the less expensive. And that project would be $158,302.13. So thoughts, comments, questions?
Any questions for Tom? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the road repair quote with Anderson Brothers of $158,302.13 as presented.
I'll second.
Any additional discussion or questions?
Does this give enough time for Anderson Brothers to get it done right away for everybody?
So when I approached them on this, we were looking at doing this in June. So before the early part of June preferably. So I will have to talk to them and ensure that that's still possible. I think it is.
Sure.
And coordinating with Grandview
Right.
on timing
yes,
and things
yes.
like that
And
as well.
obviously, we're not gonna do
Yeah.
this on a Friday afternoon.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. You're still up, Tom, with next approved road repairs for Wilderness Road.
Sure, okay, so what this is, Wilderness is on our northern border, with the city of Pequot Lakes, and at least this go around, they've, taken, the responsibility to go and have, the crack sealing and some patching work, quoted. That quote was for $12,083.40. We split that cost with them, so ours should be about $6,041.70. This is a normal budgeted expense, just looking for your approval.
Do we have a motion?
Questions if you have any?
I'll make a motion to approve the road repairs as presented for Wilderness Road.
I'll second.
Any questions or discussion for Tom? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our last item under new business is the city administrator transition. So everyone on the council should have received information from our labor attorney regarding different options regarding a city administrator transition, which, oh, is Brandon joining?
Yeah.
Oh, CL, okay. Which range from, doing an interim, appointing a third party, potentially dispersing work within current staff, assigning a council liaison to staff. So I guess just to get the conversation going, I I don't know if anyone had anything in particular or felt very strongly that they wanted to start off. Joe?
As far as what it should be.
Yeah, or your thoughts, right?
I guess my thoughts are, it's probably a bigger topic and conversation as we continue to move ahead. We saw earlier how it would potentially impact the budget, replacing a city administrator or not. I would be, in favor at this point during this interim time to, disperse the workload amongst the current staff. Kind of reevaluate that, and then, I know that we've had, as far as the personnel committee, some conversations with the city labor attorney just on the structure and how the city of Nisswa was set up structurally, city administrator versus clerk position, stuff like that. And, I myself would, probably encourage, engagement on all of us with him farther on, making a choice in the future on how to do this. I don't know that it's anything that we need to rush tonight on how we're set up, but just look at everything from all aspects, from kind of a turnover report that Jenny provided us, kind of looking at that, and the different staff members involved with the current different projects. I think right now, the current workload with the projects that we have going could easily be covered by existing staff without overwhelming them, at least for a point, while we figure out this transition.
So is there been conversation amongst the personnel committee? Sounds like there has been, at least of taking some preliminary next steps of determining the workload that is now going to be either distributed, as you're suggesting. If this position is to be filled, or if there's an interim solution, or if it is to not be filled, I think those are the three primary options on the table.
Right.
We want to make sure that this transition is not only seamless, but it's not going to affect the current day-to-day operations of the city, which is a grave concern for me, making sure that there is no disruptions to business operations. But additionally, there's quite a few projects going on within the city. We could even go as recently as the road bonds coming up on the horizon here, as well as the land and the development of that piece of property too. I don't want to jump to conclusions, and I think that I believe that we can afford ourselves some time in an interim basis to make sure that from starting at a personnel committee basis, that this is being evaluated at least top to bottom, and then I think the council would be happy to, at that point, discuss either in a separate special meeting, step forward, or in a regular meeting to take back to the larger group what the staff's thoughts are. I should say department heads in particular, personnel committee, labor attorney, and then how we can devise a plan to move forward.
Yeah, and to kind of answer that already with the personnel committee, we went line item by line item provided by Jenny, all the current projects and activities going on that she was part of in the city, and line item by line item, project by project. It's already been designated which staff member has been brought up to date and is currently in charge, along with, for instance, city engineer or different contacts on all the projects. So every project's laid out, if the city attorney's helping with, like, for instance, some land,
The grant
gathering, or I'm drawing a blank on the word, but anyhow, that's all.
the right of way.
That's all itemized out on a spreadsheet for us right now and provided. So staff is up to speed with that, as well as the personnel committee, and that's all documented at this point.
Okay.
And we were comfortable too with our meeting after going through the projects that, there's the key staff assignment, if it's related to roads, it's Tom. If it's related to the admin clerical, it's Maggie and Kiki, right? That there were, the Gull Lake Trail and things with the parks is Amber, that, the department heads you know, their departments have the capability, they're involved on the projects anyway, so it wouldn't be a rough transition because they've already been working together collaboratively on these projects, and so it would just more shift over, right?
Should-
In the transitory phase.
Also with the personnel committee, between Jennifer and I, we had talked about, immediately, having a meeting with department heads too, and specifically talking workload, things like that, and getting the feedback from each individual department head on all these items, and any impacts to them. So, that has not taken place yet, but it's on the top of our list to do that and engage to monitor that right away as far as feedback from all the department heads.
Do you guys have any questions or thoughts, feedback on anything?
I think that, staff that is, working for the city, such as women like Kiki and Maggie and the crew, Tom and everybody, I think they can carry on, and I think we should give them a chance to, take it over.
And is there any thought of, or any perspective on, in this interim, until we are able to come back together and figure out, as a council, a forward plan of having a person or individual for the department heads to go to, so it's not all like, do we have to go to all 5 council members, or, again, in this kind of transitory window?
I think that's probably touching on the authority level for some of the points, such as the expenditure authority, contract approval, dispute resolution, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
It's a clear delineation. We don't want gray areas.
Mhm.
We want there to be clear lanes established, right? And I think on the authority piece of it, going to the organizational chart, that's in this, actually right here. How it sits now, as you remove the city administrator from the current organizational chart, the next level up is the mayor and city council, with the exception of the committees and the commissions and city attorney and city engineer. I think that's going to be crucial to establish hierarchy. Now, I'd be curious to know what this looked like prior to the initial hire of Jenny as city administrator, prior to where the city clerk sat in that position. Where did the finance specialist sit in that position? I would imagine that this would have to be reorganized to some extent. But
Yeah, correct. And
It's-
that's
it
a
will be
whole
done.
different
Yep.
structural thing, but that's where, the new and current, city labor attorney is very up to speed on
Mhm.
walking us through detail, very knowledgeable on all these questions that we've been asking to help move this ahead, in a quick and timely manner,
Right.
just more so looking for direction from us probably on how to guide us as we move forward.
I would say the next 30 days going up until the May council meeting, it would be well worth our time to be able to at least put these objectives together if there's still unknowns. And then we could still schedule a special meeting if the need arises, of course. But I would think that if we were to meet and discuss this topic at the next regular council meeting, that'll give us a little bit of idea if there's still uncertainties.
And our labor attorneys, Brandon and Angel, are on remotely. I don't know, Brandon and or Angel, if you have any commentary you'd like to chime in and add here?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Well, first, I apologize, Mayor. I thought I was waiting for your text, which is completely my
Oh,
fault.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
no,
blanked
so
on
I
that.
really apologize. Here I am. So, good chunk of your discussion, which I don't know.
Is that art?
We're
Sorry,
having
Brandon,
trouble
we're having
hearing.
trouble hearing you. Hold on one
Okay.
second.
Yeah, it's some kind of a short in your mic, I believe, Brandon.
Oh, just a second. All right, how's this?
Much better.
Much better.
Okay, great. So I do apologize, Mayor, I missed precisely where you're at in the discussion. Is there any specific guidance you're looking at with the, reorganization or transitioning from city administrator, et cetera?
Yeah, so where we were in the discussion is that, the council, the feedback so far is, to have the personnel committee, do a little looking more into things and for us to have time between now and the May council meeting, but to let, we met with Jenny, the personnel met with Jenny today and went over kind of the transition document and all the projects. And that there are key handoffs to different department heads, so that nothing will be dropped. So in this interim, to let the department heads, kind of run with their departments and be able to do their jobs and just move forward while we're kind of in this transition interim phase. And the idea that Councilmember Zahn brought up is we would need clear lines, of a reporting structure at some point, but right now it doesn't seem we would know what that is when you remove the city administrator based on the org chart that you sent all of us, right? You've seen it, you know how it lines up. So just seeing if there was anything we missed in the discussion that we should be having a line of sight to, or if you had anything to add in that context.
Yeah, so let's talk practical realities. Before her last date, May 23rd, you still need the city administrator and her city code, job description, org chart, et cetera. And because there's city treasurer to perform those functions. So, and I'm sorry, Mayor, if you already talked about it, but we can't just say, all right, we won't have a city administrator, anybody performing the role of city administrator until we bring on somebody. So it's either, even though I understand the status of city administrator Max currently, the issue is she still have that title. If you need official functions to be done, that only the city administrator can do under code, job description, personnel policy, and org chart, the council should decide likely tonight, well, are we just going to allow her to perform sort of end game functions that only the administrator can perform as specified in my memo? Or do we want to look at assigning someone else? Again, there's a lot of options. Assigning someone else in the city, finding an interim. So full circle, it's either take your current administrator and just, if ultimate decisions need to be made, she can still do that. Or do you assign somebody in the city internally who in the interim could do it? Or three, do you go out looking for an interim administrator?
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that, based upon everything I know and all the discussions, that we'd be looking at assigning somebody right now because, from some of the personnel talks with you, just getting a better education on, the structure and the setup of a city government with and without administrator versus like a clerk system. And just having time to evaluate that and also evaluate all the financial impacts one way or the other, and just have a little bit of time to help define kind of roles and responsibilities with all these projects with the staff. Also too, with the department heads, like I say, getting feedback from them, I think is critical at this time too, as we would move ahead. And just have some time to weigh all those options and hear everybody out.
So, I got to get real technical. You should decide tonight as the council, per my memo, who exactly, well, at least, even if it's limited, take on some of those duties and responsibilities of administrator. Like, so, for example, you couldn't adjourn tonight and then we don't know who's got those end game city administrator functions, under policy or the treasurer functions. So I think you have to decide that you need an individual.
Individuals.
Or, well, yeah, you all decide that.
Individual.
And
He's talking about authorities and the treasurer piece of it. Am I mistaken?
Correct. Yeah, there's
Correct.
both, because as you have it set up is under the job description, and I didn't look at the underlying resolution. Yeah, it's city administrator, treasurer, and treasurer is a side note. Again, I know we put out our memo a few weeks ago, so I'll try to rehash. Your treasurer is that's your statutory position beyond city clerk. City administrators is just a position like many cities have that the city of Nisswa created that's not under statute. So Team Legal's perspective, boy, we really, side note, one thing we did not look into is if there's a position in the city, who is the deputy treasurer, they can act as treasurer. So that's one thing to think about is treasurer duties. But side note, I started this discussion with who precisely should take on the city administrator duties and responsibilities.
Okay, that makes sense. Are those duties limited to only city staff, or like can the mayor fill any of those roles on an interim or somebody like that?
Yeah, so, I've given some legal analysis to it. Two, I've had some discussions with the mayor. The problem is, unlike potentially other positions in the city, so here's the legal hierarchy. There's no direct law that says the mayor or another elected official can't take on city administrator duties and responsibilities. However, we've given the opinion that that is likely a conflict of interest with their mayoral position to take on the duties and responsibilities, even if they're not paid, because it's not only do we have potential conflict of interest, because what's one of the problems, you all collectively as the city council supervise the city administrator. So then, and the mayor or a city council member, if they take on the position, even the League of Minnesota Cities opined, you can't supervise yourself. So that is a problem with having an elected official. Now, I know there may be other examples statewide, but in our view, that under Minnesota's conflict of interest law, you can't have an elected official take on city administrator duties or responsibilities. Now, where would it be different? And this is not too helpful for Nisswa. If you didn't entrench the city administrator in your city code and give the city administrator all these duties, there are other things we could do to help supervise staff. But when it comes to the ultimate duty to exercise the city administrator duty and responsibilities, it's our opinion that an elected official can't do it. So what are the usual other options cities tap into, at least on a real short-term basis? Assign duties and responsibilities of administrator to a current city employee, just on an interim basis, and or two, try to quickly and efficiently, pursue a third party to take on the interim duties or responsibilities. Often it's retired folks. So those are the two most viable options to have somebody be city administrator, just interim, short term. For example, I'll throw it out there. You're thinking, oh my gosh, we're in a scramble here. Is some cities will be like, well, let's just assign an employee for 1 or 2 weeks. And let's really roll up our sleeves now that we know the status of the current administrator and figure out what we want to do, but let's buy time for 2 weeks. So that's often a stopgap measure.
Okay.
Brandon, a question. We totally hear you on the conflict of interest and it being best to be a staff. But what about having, like, serving as just a staff liaison in this short transitory period, in the sense, so there's one person to go to versus like coming to all 5 council members, right? Even if it's just stuff like the monthly department head meeting or touching base once a month with department heads until we sort of figure out the path forward, right? So there isn't that full confusion. Do you have a perspective on that?
It's
Like we
wonky.
have the
So,
personnel liaison or like the different
Yeah.
council, like liaisons for the different departments.
Yep. So black and white law says you could do that I'd be real technical on the language here and you can defer to our memo. The city council takes some action to assign 1 or 2 designate 1 or 2 city council members to be a liaison or representative to one, some, or all departments. So that is something you can do. So you leave out the city administrator role. So that's black and white. You can do that. Again, to us, that gets a little clunky when electeds are immersed in, we'd really have to talk about duties and responsibilities of those one or two council members, that it's tough for us to say that we can have elected officials work on day-to-day stuff. It should be more feedback, some high-level stuff, but not actively, for example, managing employees. Because that can cause a problem is you as elected officials taking on that role and the liability that comes with that, and sometimes staff confusion. So full circle, you can do it if we assign designees or liaisons, one or two, and they're just more high level. And it's an outlet for a department head to maybe bounce some things off the one or two designees. Not too much authority outside of an open meeting. So the bottom line too, I know I'm talking a lot, but trying to rehash a few weeks ago memo is, and again, to avoid open meeting law issues, we also don't want those designees to have too much power. Because if the council is going to exercise power, generally has to be at a meeting. So we can't have those designees be empowered to make final decisions. Instead, you're more someone to be a feedback and a liaison.
No, all good information. I mean, some of this you've shared with me, but it's all good for everybody to hear, and to kind of go over again, to get everyone up to speed.
Do you guys have any questions for Brandon? Okay.
So with all that being said, though, I do think tonight, though, we would want to appoint a couple interns for those roles from current city staff. I think would be my opinion on the direction. That seems just the one and only right decision to move ahead here with tonight.
And Sir Hall, I just want to be real technical. I think your motion would be this. Now again, I don't know, it's council's decision. You should assign duties and responsibilities of city administrator to employees X, Y, and or Z. And that, I can help you with the motion. I want to get way in the weeds. You don't want to appoint a current city employee's interim, because when you appoint, it looks like you're hiring them to a new job, and it causes confusion, for example, under your policies and contracts. So your literal motion would be, we assign the duties and responsibility of city administrator to employees X, Y, and or Z. And then the other secondary part, again, as you're all thinking of the full-fledged motion, who is that? Then you should consider also an additional pay bump for that we can talk about if you want to talk about the economics. So you don't have to do the pay thing. That's your option, but something to consider.
Okay.
All right. One moment.
Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, I'm foreseeing at least two, possibly three motions here. To start with the first one, if I may, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to assign duties of city administrator and treasurer to Kiki Lindberry, effective
Tonight.
immediately.
I'll second it.
Do we have any discussion or additional questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, I thought you were gonna chime in on this one. All right,
Didn't hear you.
wait, who said aye? Joe, Jesse, Bruce. Okay, motion carries.
Compensation. So the second of the three that I have in mind now, and I will defer the third one to our mayor. Second one in regards to the compensation piece, I think we need to discuss that so we are aligned. Always look this way, and there's always Jenny to ring with, but
Do you have recommendations on figuring out
Mm-mm.
a compensation in a time like this?
Yep. So there are three things to think about. One is some specific dollar per hour differential, a few dollars an hour. Another approach is to pick some finite percentage above that employee's current base pay. A range could be anywhere 5 to 10% above their current pay. The third approach, and this is the level of detail I didn't go into, not knowing the council would go there, is you take that current employee's pay grade who just got assigned, you compare it to the city administrator pay grade, and you try to slot them in at some step that's closest to, but not less than, but at least higher than their current scale. So the fourth approach, I mean, I'll throw this out there. It's not ideal, but you could take a motion tonight to make effective that, let me clarify, that the city council takes a motion to increase the pay for the employee assigned on an interim basis due to the responsibilities of administrator, but the specific pay rate that be effective today will be determined at a future council meeting. So that is another approach if you all think we need some more homework to do. So it's either finite dollar amount, finite percentage amount. 3, try to slot them in somewhere in the city administrator scale that is at least higher than where they're at. Or 4th is punt, and we'll do the homework on those 3 numbers and come back to take council action at a
Yeah.
future meeting.
Punt. You're a football guy, huh?
Why? Or soccer, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we'll take a minute to calculate some math.
Question I have for you in regards to, is there a time variable that needs to be factored into this next motion in regards to compensation, sir?
Well, it'd take effect tonight, but you said we could.
Yeah.
In the future and backdate it to
Yeah.
tonight, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, can I
That
gotta
sounds
give
better
the,
to me.
sorry, counselors.
Yeah, I
Uh,
would say that might be a good option. It'll
Can-
allow us to.
Yeah. Brandon, did you hear that?
Yeah, you want to do the punt motion?
Yeah, can we, because it's like, we feel like everyone's scrambling, we don't have the data, we don't want to make a rushed or informed motion here in fairness to everyone. But yeah, we could backdate it, correct?
Yeah, I want to get way in the weeds. Under Minnesota's public purpose expenditure law, generally you can't go retroactive pay with pay increases, but I gave you the motion unless there's an understanding between the city and the employee, which you're directing, that we're gonna increase your pay effective today. We both agree to that, but then we'll just figure it out later. So full circle, back to it, your motion should be something to the effect of this, is that the city council approves a motion that and I'm just pausing here, that effective April 16th, 2025, Kiki, and I'm sorry, I forgot her last name, will be paid, will receive an increase in pay while she's performing the duties and responsibilities of city administrator. However, the specific increase in pay will be determined at a future city council meeting.
Okay.
Kiki, before we get down that path, we probably should have asked, you're willing to take on these duties? I figure as much. And are you comfortable with that proposed motion in regards to our commitment to being able to effectively back pay in regards to the date of today, April 16th? Yes. For the duration that this is assigned. Okay. All right. With that being said, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to increase the compensation for Kiki Lindberry, from the effective date of April 16th, 2025, for a determined amount that we'll determine later for these assigned duties.
I'll second it.
Do we have any additional discussion or questions?
Should this be something figured out within the next week or ASAP, obviously?
Brandon?
And
Yeah, I mean, we can get moving on with, getting her current pay rate, getting the scales and doing some assessment, likely with the personnel liaisons on the council.
okay, so the personnel first takes a stab at it and then sends it to council to approve.
Yeah, I'd recommend, personnel look into it and you can consult with us and then come back and take a motion and vote at the next council meeting, which could be a special one or your next regular.
Do a special one.
Okay, yeah, we will.
Yeah. So, all right.
All right, so
So,
all
yeah.
those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, and then did you have anything else?
I'm good, I think.
Okay, I have a motion that I would like to make. I would like to move that, the following components of City Administrator Jenny Max's voluntary resignation with the City of Nisswa be approved effective today, April 16th, 2025. One, City Administrator Jenny Max will remain employed with the city through May 23rd, 2025, which is the City Administrator Max's last date of employment with the city. Through May 23rd, City Administrator Jenny Max will utilize all remaining vacation time until all remaining vacation time is exhausted. City Administrator Jenny Max will work exclusively remotely through May 23rd, 2025, in which she will be on call and available for phone calls and emails only. Myself and Councilmember Joe Hall are designated as the personnel to coordinate with City Administrator Max and legal counsel on this transition.
Second.
Do we have any discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion carries. Brandon, do you have anything in closing or?
No, we have homework to do with personnel, so I have nothing else, nothing further.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for joining. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the poor relations by
Oh, no
being
worries.
tardy on this. So yeah, I arrived. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Old business, we have none. Next, our council and liaison reports. I don't have any updates on my end. Mark?
So you asked for my input earlier on on parks and everything like that, so my assumption is everybody read the letter that Tom Pearson, the city attorney, sent us about the what legally the city can do for fundraising. So we know that the city council, city staff cannot actively fundraise. We can accept donations, that's it. The city park is in need of funds to replace certain things, as Amber said, the playground. Also, we're looking at the ice arena, the hockey rink. We have safety issues with it, with the lighting, the concrete. We have a chilling system that hasn't worked for at least 7 years or more. Currently right now, as we state, it's the best outdoor ice in the area. So the only options that the city has is to get the funds to get this done, to replace, repair the infrastructure, is that somebody steps forward with a big generous check, or a couple of people do. Two, somebody in the public comes forward and says, hey, we formed a fundraising committee for you. Because the city council cannot set up a fundraising committee. The other one would be the lost local option sales tax. I'm not a tax person. I've always opposed lost because it seemed like when a local option sales tax came in, municipalities kept them forever and still do. There's very narrow guidelines now with the local option sales tax. I think it would behoove us to get input from the local residents the taxpaying residents, to see if that is an option they want us to pursue. If we don't come up with funds for the city park and what needs to be done, we won't have a city park. That's plain and simple. So this is something we need to start looking at, and residents need to know where we're at on that. That's all I have.
I have a couple questions maybe with that, Mark or Tom. Like you go over to the warming house right now and there's a list of names and donors from the last go around when all this park work was done and stuff. Does anybody know how that may have been done last time? And as a council, as a park group, can we go out and ask people to form a group to do this, or we just have to just sit here and say, we wish somebody in the community steps forward and leave it as that? Or, because, yeah, obviously something was done last time.
If
How do we do that?
if I may, if I can just get a head nod or disagreement, but from Amber, was that a Lions? Was that a Lions initiative?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
But-
So to further Councilmember Fraley's point, we are calling on the public to take this initiative seriously and support us. We've all utilized that park in one fashion or another, as long as, if anybody's lived here long enough, you can see the amount of children that are in that park, the effect it has on them, the events that our Parks and Rec department and Amber and her team put on there. And we just went through them at a budget workshop meeting at 5. There is a sincere amount of activities, not just for our youth, but our adults. And having that piece be the center of a community, a recreation-based community, I might add, is imperative. And in regards to trying to be fiscally conservative with taxpayer dollars, in response to potentially decreasing the parks budget to be able to help lower the tax burden on the local tax base here, I actually asked Amber, our Parks and Rec director, in regards to what type of effect would that have on the community? And her response was pretty sound.
Devastating.
It'd be devastating. And I completely agree. So
Also, we have to look at this. We're a tourist industry. We're a tourist town.
Mhm.
We have people that come here and stay to visit Nisswa. And you will see one parent, they come here specifically, and I know people that come here specifically, where one parent will bring their small children over to the park to play while the other one shops in the shops. And then they switch halfway through it. If the city park were to go, just think of how that will affect businesses. People will say, well, it won't affect my business. I'll tell you it will. So we're making a plea, I guess, to the local citizens. That's all I have.
I agree that park is very, very important to the area here for all the people visiting, the tourists and local people as well. An important thing. Got to keep it up.
Yep.
I agree. I have blood spent there. I lost my 2 front teeth at that rink when I was a young man. But it's hopefully the public will hear this, and we can try to continue to collaborate and encourage folks behind the scenes, private citizens and businesses. So I wish everybody in the community a happy Easter this upcoming Sunday. And that's all I have.
Yeah, we got to do everything and anything to keep the park going and maintain it and make it better.
Good. Do you have anything else for your update? Bruce, do you have anything for your update? Jesse? Joe?
Nope.
All right, just a few announcements and upcoming meeting dates. This Friday is the Crow Wing County Board of Appeals and Equalization meeting here at 1 p.m. and then our standard commission meetings, and we're doing our first spring town hall on May 13th at the community center at 5 p.m. And that is it in terms of announcements and upcoming meeting dates. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move. Oops,
Oh,
go ahead.
sure. Yeah, the public comment was earlier in the meeting, but are,
We're
curious about how much money the city wants to fix the park.
oh,
It's-
Amber, Amber or Mark, do you want to comment on?
I can give you a ballpark figure. Have you seen any of were you at any of the concepts? The open, okay, so this has been ongoing for, 4 years, almost 5. We came up with, we knew the playground equipment was coming near end. Its life expectancy down. We were looking at the ice arena, the hockey rink. We used to have 2 with boards. We now just have 1. Because we couldn't replace the old boards that were there, put the money into it. Money has been going into the chilling system that does not work. So that has to be removed. The chiller system has to be removed because we don't want the potential of breaks in the lines and the glycol leaking in. So we were looking at that. We decided to do a master plan with the guidance of our Park and Recs Amber and the committee. We put it out to the public. We had open houses. They came up with 3 designs. Through that, of everybody coming in and looking at the designs, it was narrowed down to 1. There's various things in there. Some things could be dropped. But the one thing we were looking at is the hockey rink that's there right now is to have it covered, not a building, just covered. Reason why is because instead of a 20-year guarantee, we can have a 50-year guarantee on the concrete. It will help keep the ice stay longer because of the sun. Also, it could be used year round. We could have, in the summer, it could be used for playing basketball, other things. We could have, I know the A&W, they do their car show now every year. Possibility of being able to put some of the vehicles over there too. We could have bands in there, all sorts of things that could happen there in the summer. It wouldn't just be used in the winter. Along with that, we've have looked at adding some pickleball courts and so forth. The number that we have been told and have been looked at is approximately $10 million for everything that needs to be done at the park. It's a lot of money. Yes.
Is that just the capital investment, or does that also include that maintenance plan for 10 or 20 years? I mean, how are we going to maintain this facility?
Okay, so when I first came onto the council, we didn't have a CIP, capital improvement plan. So what the council did last time is we started a CIP for each department, putting money aside so that the maintenance and stuff can be taken care of in the future, because that's a big thing. A lot of municipalities don't look at that. They look at, we want to build this, but they don't think about how to take care of it and put it. So yes, that $10 million would be the to get the improvements and the replacements that we need for the park. We're already starting to put money aside for the maintenance and upkeep of it. Anybody else? I know this isn't the time for question and answers, and I understand that, but this is a very important, I'm very passionate about it.
Can I interject just
Yep.
because there seems to be questions about this? At the March, there was a workshop where I rolled through some of the history on this. So you can always go back on City of Nisswa YouTube. Look at March, we had a presentation on it. And then the Parks Commission in October, we had a presentation on it and how to donate and different ways you can donate. Otherwise, on the cityofnisswa.gov website under fundraising, it spells out each of those amenities and projected costs and things like that. So there are some resources out there for those that do have questions, and then obviously you can contact me anytime.
Right, and as you can see, this is conceptual right here on the wall. we want, it'll be the replacement and in a way improving it to be more of a center spot for people when they come, you know. If you ever have any questions, you can reach out to me because I am the liaison with the parks. And Amber is very good. She'll sit down, ask any question. But I think at this point, we're at a plea. We've had a lot of things that the city has had to get going. So this has been put on the back burner for too long. That's all I have to say.
Anything else from anyone before we motion to adjourn? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Hold on, one more
Oh.
thing. How many people have been to the newest park within city? Does anybody know where the new park is? Has anybody heard of the new park? I have Lakota blood and I still cannot pronounce half of the Chippewa names out there. So if you go down Camp Lincoln Road, it was land that was tax forfeit. We ended up with it begrudgingly, I'd say. We had to put a bathroom in it. We have a bathroom out there and we have what, close to 2 miles of trail out there right now? Okay. Now I have close to 2 miles of trails on my property, but my wife and I go out to that just to take a walk because it's different. It's beautiful. It's hole in the days right there. So if you haven't been out there, it's packed and it's easy. I have a lot of problems with walking. I have a disability, but it's an easy path for me to walk on for the most part. I've talked to Amber about some few things, but we'll deal with that. But if you haven't been out there, go out there.
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Gotta take care of